I think we're gonna close out with this. There is another video that I want to watch on AI, but I don't know if I want to watch it because like it is kind of boring, and I would much rather dunk on Charles Kirk because he deserves it. He deserves it. He went to Cambridge not too long ago. I think it was last week or so. And he debated college, who I'm perceiving to be a college student, as he normally does. He also debated a professor, but we're not gonna watch that because I think this video would be too long. But Charlie Kirk and a lot of conservative or right wing content creators really much enjoy debating college kids, which isn't impressive. I'm sorry to all of my college age viewers, but college age children tend to be a little bit less knowledgeable on certain things than somebody like Charlie Kirk, who is 30, who has been doing politics for at least a decade, I would say. These kids have just not been exposed to the same amount of history as Charlie Kirk has. It's very easy to dunk on somebody when they are not on the level that you are intellectually. And I use intellectually lightly because Charlie Kirk is not an intellectual. But when you watch Charlie Kirk debate somebody like Sam Cedar or Hassan Piker, it's very clear that he has a set of talking points that he sticks to that sometimes overwhelm college kids. But again, when you encounter someone who has been studying politics for as long as Charlie Kirk has been, it doesn't hit the same because they know the subtext of what Kirk is saying. They know how to properly retort and rebuke his points. College kids just simply do not know how to do that quite yet. It is a skill. Debate is a skill. Charlie Kirk, in my estimation, is not that great of a debater. He has this weird tick where whenever he's being bested on an idea, he just talks really loudly and attempts to talk over the other person that he's conversing with. Overall, I don't think that debates are very productive. It's theater. It really is that much. These two people who are debating, Charlie Kirk, and I believe her name is Tilly, they have their ideology. Neither of them are going to change anyone's mind. And that's often what happens in a debate, which is why it, devolves into theater. But this young lady, and I don't know how old she is. In the video, she says that she's getting ready for her graduate final. So I would reckon that she's probably around like 23 or so. So a little bit older than most college-aged kids. And she handles herself pretty well in this debate. I will say I was very impressed when I watched it the first time, how she doesn't fall for a lot of Charlie Kirk's bullshit.
So I'm a feminist. My question is about the role of women, though. What should women's role in public and private life look like, and what are the material benefits of that?
Well, thank you for that. Can I take it? I don't even want to take this detour, but can we both agree on what a woman is?
Yes,
You guys can't even define what a woman is. Like, so I don't even know if I can have this debate because I think that if you have no, I'm not gonna say it. Like, if I see titties, that's a woman, bro. And like anything else, that's not a woman. This is what the fuck I mean. This is so pointless. This is such a fucking stupid way to begin the debate. Acting as if like womanhood is binary, which it's not, and which Tilly will explain. I'm actually going to allow her to explain. I'm not being much of a feminist ally by talking over her.
Adult human female, it's a biological state of being that is also socially experienced. Can I please elucidate just one example of that social experience?
Yeah, I was going to answer your question, but sure, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. So let's say you're a member of a tribe, and that in that tribe, you have the biological female anatomy, and in order to become a woman in that tribe, you have to also get a tattoo. That's a social experience that's mapped onto biological reality.
So can a woman have a prostate?
Can a woman have a prostate? Biologically speaking, a woman is an adult human female.
Oh my
that has a
god, like this conversation is so fucking stupid because both sex and gender are a spectrum. I don't know why it's so hard for conservatives to wrestle with this idea. Sex, intersex people exist, man. There are women who are born with like quote unquote male traits. There are women that are born with high testosterone, much like there are men who are born with low testosterone. You have intersex women who are born, or you have intersex individuals, pardon me, who are born with an X and a Y chromosome. The scientific community is pretty much in agreement that sex is not as binary as we once imagined it. Gender is even a far larger spectrum. As I mentioned before, I have long hair. That is considered a feminine trait. But like, I also have a beard, which Charlie Kirk does not. Do I think that Charlie Kirk is any less of a man because he doesn't have a beard and I do? Like, it's just so fucking stupid to talk about this area. It's just so fucking stupid to have a debate about this. Like, this is not productive. The scientific community is already in agreement. Oh, and by the way, gender norms have historically changed. Like 100 years ago, pink and blue pink was not associated with a newborn baby girl, much as like blue was not associated with a newborn baby boy. They were flipped. This is just the nature of humanity.
Biological reality, but it's also social experience, right? So I don't.
Yeah, it's super easy. Like, can a woman have a prostate?
So as per my definition of woman, I would say that people who have a prostate are biologically male, but they can sometimes be socially treated as women.
Okay, got it. So women can have prostates. Got it. Okay. So you're a feminist that actually isn't just fighting for women, you're also fighting for men.
So, yes, men also experience harms from patriarchy, but I argue...
We're talking about the same feminism, though, just make sure. Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So, men also experience harm from patriarchal domination, but I would argue that those harms come from that system of domination itself. In the same way, for example, this isn't a threat, but if I reached across and punched you in the face, then my hand might hurt, right? So, are we understanding that there are, patterns of power? So, I would also fight for the rights of men as a feminist, just as I would fight for the rights of women.
Sure.
Yeah, it's a really simple concept. It's a concept of equality. Conservatives, however, don't want equality. They want white men to sit at the top of the social hierarchy. They fear women in power. They fear minorities having the same rights as them. Feminism is like it's a very normal ideology. You want men and women to be treated equally. It's that simple.
You think women are happier than they were 40 years ago?
I think I would have a few responses to that. I think that women report more stress and dissatisfaction today because, not because they have more rights or because of feminism, but because they're under dual pressure to both excel professionally and also because of the domestic labor in homes that is structured around outdated expectations. So
I don't know this woman's political leanings. I would imagine that I know for a fact she is on the left side of the political spectrum. I don't know how far left she may be. The answer to this is very simple. Capitalism has made people unhappy over the last 40 years, women and men alike. There's your answer. It's capitalism. Over the last 40 years, what has happened? There has been a tremendous explosion of wealth inequality. People have less now than their parents did. It is harder for people to buy a home today than it was for their parents. People have fewer assets on average than their parents. This extends to both men and women. I don't think that anybody is happier now than they were 40 years ago because capitalism has stripped the working class of their humanity. It has stripped them of their womanhood. You live to work. You must work 40, 50, 60 hours a week at this bullshit job that you fucking hate just in order to not be homeless. It doesn't matter if you're a man, woman, non-binary. It literally does not fucking matter. Capitalism is so pervasive that it is tremendously detrimental to everyone who exists under it.
For example, studies like the OECD's Better Life Index show that women's life expectancy, education levels, professional achievements have risen in countries with higher gender inequality. So I would argue that what you're calling unhappiness is actually visibility, because now we hear women expressing dissatisfaction, whereas in the 50s, we prescribed them Valium and we lobotomized.
Yeah. That's really rich. I didn't know women not to complain 50 years ago. That's funny.
Is Charlie, like, he's just oblivious to virtually everything. Are you unaware of the societal norm that women experienced in the 50s, where women were to be seen and not heard? Women were not allowed to get divorced in the 50s. Like, hello? Like, what the fuck? And he's just like, he's so fucking smug about everything. Oh, yeah, I didn't know women to complain 50 years ago.
So,
Hold
on a second. Why are suicide rates going up more for women?
I think that
Forget
encourages...
complaining. Materially, women are killing themselves more. Why is that?
I think that even if both men and women have become unhappier, men's suicide rates have risen as well, and that's also been exponential. Can you at least concede that feminism offers only one potential explanation? There could be also other explanations.
Of course, obviously, but feminism is the glaring thing in front of us, where we have fertility rates down, we have marriage rates
down. The implication here is that men or that women are killing themselves because of feminism. This is what I mean. This commentary is so just devoid of any substance. It's so devoid of any systemic analysis that once you encounter like a fully formed human being who is trained in this specific subject and studies this subject, they can just take down all of these points one by one. Women's suicide rates are rising, yes, and just as this young lady said, so are male suicide rates. And do you know where suicide rates are rising exponentially? In highly developed countries or highly industrialized countries like the US, like Western Europe, like South Korea. And people are killing themselves at a higher rate in these countries because these countries are exceptionally more capitalist. And the more capitalist you become, the more humanity you lose. The more of a cog in the machine that you are, the more that you work, the more alienated you become from society. Because particularly here in the United States, there is no social safety net. There is a lack of funding for critical areas of society. There is legislation that has not been enacted that doesn't allow people to take some time off of work to go even to the fucking doctor, let alone take a day off to go see your family or to spend a weekend away in the mountains with your friends. This is why. This is the issue here. This is not a social issue. This is not the result of feminism. This is the result of economic policy. But Charlie and other conservatives will never reckon with that because they love capitalism. They've benefited from capitalism. They think capitalism is the end-all be-all economic system. And when you bring this up to them, they're like, show me an instance of where socialism has worked. Oh, that's right. It hasn't, because socialism doesn't work. And yet they conveniently omit the fact that any time there has ever been a socialist nation, it has been heavily interfered with by capitalist nations, because capitalists fear an alternative economic system in which the working class is united and has power. There are more workers than there are business owners. I understand that this is a conversation about feminism, but it extends way beyond that. Women are part of the working class, right? They are not just excluded from the societal ills that plague us because of capitalism. You can have this intersectionality where you are a marginalized person, but you are still beaten down by capitalism.
Down, we have unhappiness up, and we did something in the 1960s out of the universities of Bretty Friedan and Gloria Steinem and all these feminists that basically said, you're trapped in a home, go get a job, freeze your eggs, take birth control, and all of a sudden women are way unhappier than they were 40 years ago. And I just have to ask the question, why is that? Is it working? And maybe there are biological differences between men and women that we should respect, and that deep down a lot of women want to get married and have children. In fact, we should applaud it, and we should support it, and we should say it means nothing if you're going to go be a CEO of some shoe company or be some banker in London. What matters if you raise children and you have something to pass down long after you're gone.
I think I would bring 2 points to that. The first one is just really simple, which is that you can ascribe liberalism all you want as the cause of the unhappiness. I would argue something else. I would say that it's certain economic policy that has very little to do with the social acceptance of alternative lifestyles. I would say that we can recognize that income inequality across a vast swathe of Western countries has increased, which causes all kinds of social ills, a lack of social cohesion, housing price growth doesn't correspond with wage growth, monopolies increasingly become kind of emboldened to interfere with politics, and monopolies don't prioritize social health either. I think that those offer more compelling reasons for a decline in happiness than an increase in freedoms, because just one more thing, on an intuitive basis, generally speaking, people want more freedom, not less.
Okay, so if that's true,
I mean, yeah, she's right. She's right. Have, at least on the economic front, I have nothing more to add to that. She's totally correct. Like, you can ascribe the ills of you can ascribe capitalism to all of these ills. It is a totally valid argument. But I want to just go back to the way that Charlie framed that question. In it, he mentions like having children and leaving something for the next generation. He's implying here that women are just vessels for childbirth. They are, in the eyes of Charlie Kirk and a lot of conservative, women exist to be bred, and that's it. J.D. Vance feels the same way. He is a pronatalist. Anyone who talks about declining birth rates is a freak. Life, you are more than just a parent. Like, you are your own person. To reduce it down to that strips any woman of their personhood. You can live a fulfilling life without having children. You can pursue hobbies and pursue passions. But you can't do that if you have to work your fucking ass off under capitalism. Like, capitalism is still the overarching problem here. Capitalism does not afford you time to pursue any special interests, much like it doesn't afford you time to have children in some instances.
why is it? Do you agree that the happiest women of the West are married with kids?
I would have to look into it, but
Every
I think there are
study
certain
shows, right?
there are certain
And
Every study, name the study, buddy. Like, who is concluded? Like, who is conducting this study?
objectively we know that, right? The women with kids are not the ones tearing down statues, right? They're the ones that actually have obligations.
Does tearing down statues correspond to some kind of smiles per capita data set that I wasn't aware of?
Again, it's like, it's a little bit of a one-liner. The happy and the grateful. The happy and the grateful.
Can we just? I love to do this when there's two people in a room together. Do the body language thing. The soy Charlie Kirk. Why is he standing with his legs crossed? Is he? This is a joke, guys. This is a joke. I'm joking. He's not being feminine by standing with his legs crossed. I just enjoy doing the Chad versus Virgin body language. I think it's my favorite. Anyway, care to provide some more specifics on this study, Charlie? What is the economic position of these women? I think that is a very important piece of data. As you know, studies are only as valid as the variables that they account for. If these women are happier because they are part of a higher income bracket and therefore have more free time, it's obvious why they're happy.
People usually don't go burn down Wendy's in their spare time, of which we saw in our country all throughout a single summer. But as a side note, you would agree, objectively, study after study, survey after survey, that the women of the West that are married and have children, especially a lot of children, are far happier than even the ones that earn more money correlated at the same age.
So I also don't think that happiness is a very good metric, and neither do you, because you think gay people shouldn't just pursue happiness by being gay. They have other moralistic considerations to be making. So I don't think smiles per capita is a particularly convincing way to measure whether or not we should encourage women to be autonomous. I think we should maximize agency within a fair system that has reasonable parameters because it's expedient, it's good for the economy, it's logical, it's the moral thing, because if we can't prove the material harms, we shouldn't discourage it. And also, self-reported studies is a really flawed way to do psychology. It's the week before my university exams right now, and I'm standing here explaining the basic methodology behind survey collection in sociology, which you don't even think is a real subject, to Charlie Kirk. If I took one of those surveys right now, I'd check extremely miserable, but so would a Palestinian child who's been torn to smithereens. How are we going to measure?
You would say extremely miserable?
No, I'm kind of making a joke.
No, I mean, but seriously, like, but hold on. I mean, like, that's an important point, though, is that the women in the West have it the best in the world, and yet
but like, according to who? This is what Charlie is failing to understand. If you give someone a survey, they're going to respond to that survey with how they are feeling at that specific time. That's the comparison that she made. Like, yeah, I'm extremely miserable because I got to talk to this fucking annoying dipshit. It's everyone. Your perception is reality. Perception is reality. Someone could, on paper, have the best life possible. But if they don't believe it to be true, then it's not true as far as they're concerned.
Way unhappier than women of sub-Saharan Africa. There's something fundamentally wrong here. Because the women of sub-Saharan Africa have something that a lot of women in the West do not have. The women in the West have cats, and they have good jobs. And the women of sub-Saharan Africa, they have a belief in the divine, and they have kids. And maybe there's a biological undercurrent that is keeping the women in the West in the world. And yet they're way unhappier than women of sub-Saharan Africa. There's something fundamentally wrong here. Because the women of sub-Saharan Africa have something that a lot of women in the West do not have. The women in the West have cats, and they have good jobs. And the women of sub-Saharan Africa, they have a belief in the divine, and they have kids. And
this is the same, like, argument for suicide. The reason why suicide rates are lower in underdeveloped countries is because those countries are, at this point, less capitalist. And there are other things that these people have to worry about. But additionally, because these countries are far less capitalist, and even though these people may be in some cases significantly poorer, they are able to lead more fulfilling lives because they have the time to pursue other things, even though they might not have the means to pursue them. The common denominator here, it's capitalism. Charlie is trying to reason it like it's a moralistic or it's a religious thing. No, this is an economic problem. The literature is there. The studies are there. By every meaningful metric, every meaningful economic metric, life was better before Ronald Reagan and before capitalism got fucking expedited. Back when you can have a family on a one-income household because you worked at a unionized plant, at a unionized manufacturing facility, and you were paid adequately, and your house wasn't $500,000 for a fucking 900 square foot shoebox, a glorified studio apartment. And yes, I'm speaking from experience here.
Maybe there's a biological undercurrent that is keeping a lot of women from realizing their full potential. And so without reading your phone and just connecting.
I'm not really reading my phone.
Well, it's fine. Sure, then you can answer without it. Fair enough. Would you agree that it's a good thing that more women get married and have children in the West?
I would ask you, would you say that a sub-Saharan African woman who's experienced female genital mutilation and checks extremely happy in a survey, and I also would check extremely happy in a survey, who do you think would be objectively more happy, even if they both check the same answer?
No, again, so I fully, if you want to talk about how Islam mistreats women, we could talk all day long. Like, I'm all for that.
Me too.
Okay, good. So we agree.
Yeah, absolutely. We agree on many things.
Dude, sub-Saharan Africa is mostly Christian, is it not? Am I missing something here? Yeah, I'm losing the debate. I'll just sprinkle in a little bit Islamophobia because I'm in the fucking UK, bro. And they're afraid of we don't like Turkish people here. We don't like baklava. I'm sure that's going to upset some Greeks who are watching. I have no dog in this fight.
We should shut off Muslim immigration to the UK, right? We totally agree.
I think that all religious fundamentalism is bad, and if you take that logic, we should also not allow evangelical Christians into the UK either.
Hold on. So hold on a second. Hold on. That's funny. Hold on. Can you show me what would your example, because I have 50, of a single Christian country that you would say mistreats women, right?
America.
Oh, really?
Yes.
We had a
Yes.
female woman vice president.
Oh my God, we had a female woman vice president. Yo, Charlie is a fucking loser. Straight up. This guy sees the Supreme Court overturn Roe v. Wade. He sees abortion going onto as many down ballot measures as possible. Women vote against them overwhelmingly, obviously. He sees the assault on like birth control, and he's like, oh no, America does not mistreat women. Like, what fucking reality do you exist in? It's crazy. It's crazy. The United States of America 1,000,000% mistreats women, despite all the liberal bullshit of, oh, we had a female vice president. Oh my God, Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State. Like, who gives a shit, dude? There are women in Texas who are fucking dying because they were raped and couldn't get a fucking abortion. Like, wake up, man. Jesus Christ. I hate this fucking guy, and I hate all of these fucking people like him because they don't understand the real world consequences of what the fuck they advocate for. They're either ignorant to it or they don't fucking care, and I don't know which one is worse. How do you live in the United States? How do you cover politics? And you come to the fucking conclusion that the United States of America does not mistreat women. They're trying to there are states that are trying to ban birth control. There were like 16 states that had trigger laws on Roe versus Wade that made it illegal to have an abortion. Like, are you fucking stupid? This is a legitimate medical operation that various states all throughout the country are preventing women from getting, all because of religious zealots like this guy. It's not rooted in science. It's rooted in fucking theology, and it's dangerous.
Female vice president, a female speaker of the House. Women earn more than men in America.
In Rwanda.
What? Wait, what? There's no way that's true. There's no way that women earn more than America. There's no fucking way. Gender pay gap in the US has narrowed slightly over 2 decades. But guess what? There is still a gender pay gap. Here, I have a graph, dude. Look, I have data. From, oh, court. No, I don't have data because Statista is like, oh, you have to pay $500 to, here we go. Women's earnings were 83.6% of men in 2023. Interesting. Women earn more than men? Women earn more than men? That's weird you say that, Charlie. When women who were full-time wage and salary workers had a median weekly earnings of $1,005, men had $1,202. Like that, what the fuck, man? Get a better lie. The gender pay gap is like the most prominent piece of evidence. It's like the most prominent piece of gender-based inequality.
Representation in government supersedes the UK by quite a lot. Did women get treated better in Rwanda?
Okay, I might be super off this. Like, is Rwanda Islamic? Like, I'm not totally sure. I don't think it is. Like,
does it matter?
I don't know.
Does it matter? No, like he's just being Islamophobic.
Actually, it's not. So again, we were just talking about Islam. It's a little bit of a side note, but you must be morally clear because you brought up female genital mutilation, which is a teaching of the Islamic faith. But as a side note, like, again, this is very important, which is I'm not here to require you to do anything or not. I'm making a simple observation, which is objectively true regardless. The women of the West are miserable, and they're miserable for a reason, because we've told them to suppress how they are made by God and pursue something else, and get a bunch of trinkets and get a bunch of promotions, and they end up at 38 years old with a big flat in London, and they're miserable. And we should tell them to stop freezing their eggs and start finding their partner earlier and have lots of babies.
Yeah,
I'm not. He said, I'm not requiring you to do anything, but you need to pop out as many children as humanly possible, as many children as God intended. This is an unserious individual. This is someone who is not interested in having a debate about anything. He's merely interested in expressing his bullshit ideology. He thinks that women are unhappy because they are no longer incubators for babies, which is fucking ridiculous. Like, that is a ridiculous view to hold. It is wildly misogynistic because you don't even see women as like human beings. You see them as incubators. But he talks about declining birth rates and women not wanting to have children without wanting to talk about the systemic and structural reasons as to why women might not want to have children, or the factors that limit people from wanting to have children. Additionally, even if we are going to talk about parenthood, Republicans are considering banning in vitro fertilization, which in some cases is the only way that people can have children. This is not a conversation that is rooted in anything substantive. It is all vibes. It is all like Bible based.
Okay, I think I'd bring two just final points to this. First one is just really intuitive, right? Which is that if you actually care about women's happiness, then the solution is to structurally support them. That means universal childcare, shared legally enforceable parental leave, and in Nordic countries where women have high workforce participation and also some state support, they report higher life satisfaction than in more conservative countries, including America. So if your metric is happiness,
just use satisfaction surveys.
The Nordic countries Finland routinely polls as the happiest place on earth, despite the fact that they get 24 hours of fucking darkness. And it's for all of these reasons. It's for all the reasons that this young lady just mentioned. They are less capitalist than other Western democratic nations. That much is true. The Nordic model, as far as I'm concerned, is the best inspiration for transitioning away from capitalism. You still get some aspects of capitalism, obviously, but people have access to higher education. They have very robust childcare. They have a very robust childcare system. They have a very robust healthcare system. They have a highly unionized workforce, which in turn makes more money without having to work as many hours. That is how you stimulate society. You allow people the option to participate in society, or the opportunity to participate in society.
You just told me they're BS.
So are satisfaction surveys bullshit or not? Because you told me they're bullshit.
Do you acknowledge satisfaction surveys or not? You just told me that they're BS. Do you think they're objective? We can use that as data?
I don't think that
yes or no?
is the only
This
sole
is,
data
oh
set.
my God, surveys and studies are only as good as the variables that they account for. The OECD has very robust research and a very robust scientific process. If Charlie were to show me a study about female happiness, I would not reflexively discount it. But you can find a study that supports any point of view. It's not hard. Like, there are quack studies. You have to find a study with an appropriate sample size as well. Research is intense. It's a lot. It depends on the study.
But it is a data set that
you told me they're so
matters.
flawed and you self-report. Okay, by the macro self-satisfaction data.
Also, self-reporting studies are not very reliable. It doesn't matter what avenue of science it is. It could be exercise science. If you have people that are self-reporting, they're going to be a little, it might not be the most accurate gauge, very much like how eyewitness testimony is not the best form of evidence.
I am correct. And you are right. When you have paid family leave, You are happier. I'm actually a proponent of that. At Turning Point USA, we pay for 6 months when somebody has a child. I think there's a lot of agreement we can have on that. We need to encourage having more children. I think the Hungarian child policy is phenomenal. We should look at that because the greatest...
Just to cut Charlie off here because I want to. It's not about the company mandating paid time off. It's about the government mandating paid time off because Charlie can very much turn around and adjust this policy. However, if the government says you have to give 6 months parental leave, Charlie can't do shit. He has to give 6 months at the minimum. You can't expect business to act altruistically. They won't. The second that it becomes less profitable for Charlie Kirk to have 6 months parental leave, he's going to reduce it.
thing that is plaguing the West is we're not having enough kids. And it's not just bad because we won't have a future, it's also bad because the present is awfully miserable for too many women as well.
Okay, in which case I think we
Who is we?
Do I stop bringing this?
Who is we, by the way? Just a little. Who is we? He's talking about white people? I think he's talking about white people. If white Europeans don't... he's definitely talking about white people because when people talk about the West, they talk about the United States and Western Europe. Like, they're talking about white people. They're talking about white European people. Charlie wants more white European people because he fears becoming the minority, which is an inherently racist fear.
To a close, please.
Okay, I think just one final thing, which is that in which case we get to a really interesting argument about what parts of womanhood can be demarcated to the social and what kinds of womanhood can be demarcated to the biological. So, for example, my anatomy is demarcated to the biological, but the fact that I might potentially be a better nurturer than a man, I would demarcate that to the social, you might demarcate that to the biological, in which case we have differing moral scales of value. I would ask why we should necessarily prioritize your moral scale of value, which prioritizes things like the birth rate, when in actual fact there are various other moral scales of value. And if you yourself are a free market American, why is it the case that you would not, like the previous speaker noted,
I've already answered
extend personal freedoms towards all spheres, including a private sphere?
I believe in absolute truth claims, and it's absolutely wrong and bad when a society stops having kids to replace their own population. And then you have to import the third world, and you become the third world. It's
You have
bad.
to import the third world and become the third world is such a fucking disgusting thing to say. He is a gross human being. Who gives a shit, man? Who gives a shit, like, if people immigrate here? Like, you're just a racist. There's no further commentary I could say on that.
I disagree, but thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's so fucking gross. He's using the third world as an insult. Because in his assessment, how is this an insult? Because a large portion of underdeveloped countries are black and brown. You have some countries in Eastern Europe that may also be underdeveloped, but also depending on how racist somebody is, they may also consider Slavic people not to be white. It's, for Charlie, his goal, and for a lot of these conservative pundits, their main goal is the preservation of the white race. Like, that is, like, more than anything else. They want to make sure that white people remain the majority in the United States. That is why they freak out so much about the birth rate. Like, if you look at people who talk about the birth rate, it's Charlie Kirk, it's JD Vance, it's Elon Musk, it's white people. They only talk about it for exclusively racist reasons.